On May 10, 1994, Nelson Mandela became the first president of the new post-apartheid South Africa. But what is apartheid? What happened before that to make Mandela the best choice to lead the country in a new direction? And what happened after he left the presidency? I think of apartheid as apart-hide. Blacks and whites were not allowed to spend time together. They had to be apart, and the blacks pretty much had to hide. You can think of this as similar to the Jim Crow era legislation and the separate but equal mandates of the U.S. government after the emancipation after the Civil War. In South Africa, there were colored entrances and white entrances. There were many areas where only whites were allowed to go. In South Africa, the separated facilities lasted almost up until Nelson Mandela taking office, officially ending apartheid. Rolihlahla Mandela was born in 1918 to a chief of the Madiba clan in Eastern Cape Province of the United Kingdom. When his father died, he was made a ward of the Thembu king, Jongintaba Dalindibu, where he stayed until college. And I'm sorry if I butchered that name. On the first day of primary school, he was given the name Nelson by his teacher. When he was at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, he was the only black student and faced much racism. This began his resistance fight, where he took on the ideal of fighting all types of supremacy, whether it being white supremacy, black supremacy, or whatever, working toward equality for all. He worked with the African National Council, or the ANC, and soon worked his way up to be president of the council. In a short time, he was banned by the South African government, meaning that he could not talk to more than one person at a time, making it impractical for him to continue as president. Mandela left the country using false papers. Upon his return, he was arrested when the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency tipped off the authorities, and he was given a 5-year sentence of hard labor. Probably understanding that he would be convicted no matter what, he used this trial to give speeches and bring coverage to the wrongs of apartheid. Shortly after, he was put on trial again for sabotage and conspiracy. In this trial, he could have faced the death penalty. However, the judge sentenced him to life in prison instead. In 1990, as apartheid was beginning to fall, Mandela was unconditionally released from prison. Upon his release, he began traveling Africa and the world. He visited leaders in Zambia, Libya, France, the UK, the US, Japan, Cuba, and so much more. He encouraged these countries to place sanctions upon South Africa until apartheid was ended. Mandela and the state president of South Africa, Frederick Willem de Klerk, began negotiations. Despite not really trusting each other, they worked together to bring an end to apartheid, and in 1994, Nelson was able to vote for the first time in his life. Presumably, he voted for himself as the president of the new post-apartheid South Africa. He won the election and helped build a new government with de Klerk as his deputy president until 1996. Both of them won Nobel Prizes for their work in ending apartheid. Mandela worked hard to bring about change in his country, reconciling the minority government that had ruled for so long with the majority black people who now had a say in their own government. He created domestic programs where there were huge disparities in the services, where white communities were receiving much better services than black communities. He also continued to work on foreign relations. His presidency was not without its issues, though. He was accused of ignoring the issue of HIV, as 10% of the population was HIV positive. He admitted that he did, in fact, ignore this topic. leaving it for the next president. He was also accused of being soft on crime, and many international crime syndicates are said to have increased activity in South Africa during his time. In 1999, he retired. Now 81 years old, he wished to lead a quiet life with his family. Although he could not stay out of things completely, he began work on his second autobiography, Dare Not to Linger: The Presidential Years. This book was posthumously published in 2017. While he was criticized for not doing more for HIV during his presidency, he made up for this in retirement and worked to create the 46664 campaign, a series of benefit concerts to raise funds and awareness for HIV. He also spoke at the 13th and 15th International AIDS Conferences and did so much more for the HIV community. During his retirement, he also spoke out against some of the Western powers, particularly the U.S. involvement in Kosovo and the later war on Iraq, stating that this was an attempt to police the entire world. In 2004, he retired from retirement, saying, "Don't call me, I'll call you." And despite saying he did not want to be involved, was still active even in his retirement from retirement. He formed the Nelson Mandela Legacy Trust, spoke at the NAACP, or National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, met with U.S. senators including Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and he met the U.S. President George W. Bush. He joined with a group of other Nobel Prize winners that they called the Elders, which were dedicated to fostering peace and resolving global conflict. This group, a brainchild of Richard Branson, a British entrepreneur, included Mandela, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, South African Archbishop Desmond Tutu, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, Indian women's rights activist Ella Bott, Norwegian Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland, and more. On the 5th of December 2016, after nearly 3 years battling with respiratory illness, Mandela passed away at the age of 95, surrounded by his family. His ideologies are well established in South Africa and the world, and his legacy continues. Below, I have included links to both of his autobiographies. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up, and for another biography, check out this video.